on. Oh, there we go. Do we Good morning and welcome to First Unitarian Church. My name is Jan Shea, and I will be joining Jim Davis as co-presenter of this morning's program. Just a quick reminder for those who are present today of our reopening procedures for meeting in the building and on the grounds. They include leaving your masks on at all times unless you have a speaking role or you are outside. Maintain social distancing between household groups in the building and in any outside activities. Following the service, there will be no coffee hour, and we ask that you not gather inside the building after our presentation. You may, however, gather to greet one another on the grassy area to the left of the main entrance, staying masked and maintaining social distance between households. We also ask that you refrain from singing, though you are invited to express yourselves by humming softly if the Spirit moves you. We appreciate your efforts to ensure the safety of all in our beloved community. Thank you. Lullaby is a great melody and would be so even if the words were foreign. It was chosen to open in hopes that the good feeling it produces would be carried over to our service. This is, of course, an advertising technique of transference. Each UU congregation is a mirror of its members and is unique in being as different one from another as other denominations are each from the other. Today, we have chosen our service to be different from our usual, as if we were a small congregation where members all know each other by first names and provide all activities that sustain such a community. With the COVID protocol in place, it does seem more like a small congregation here in person. Our congregation is sponsoring, among many events, an interpretive nature peace walk at 2 o'clock today at the Russell Peterson Urban Wildlife Refuge near Wilmington Waterfront. Details are on our website. Just scroll down to Delaware Peace Week. Let us remember the work of Russell and June Peterson. This morning, we are bringing some entertainment, some history, and some support and encouragement to you as we continue our breakout from our COVID semi-isolation. We invite you to participate wherever you are, in person or in spirit, by YouTube. Of course, you are welcome here at First Unitarian Church of Wilmington, Delaware. May we offer the hand of fellowship, which is as necessary now as ever. We're glad you can join us.
I should like to express gratitude to this community. We gather now to light our chalice, the symbol of our faith and fellowship, a safe harbor in these times of cultural discord. Its light represents our commitment to justice and the betterment of society, where you are valued and accepted, no matter your financial situation, your gender identity, your race, your skin color, nor whom you love. If you have a chalice at home, please light it now. Let this light also shine for O.C. Bernstein, for whom a memorial service will be held at 2 o'clock this afternoon at Hershey Run. I did some work with her, and I will miss her ideas and wide range of interests. Details are in our website.
Greetings come in different forms. Let's see where they come from. For instance, the handshake came about a very long time ago. It was a way to show you were a friend with no intent to injure. If your hand was hidden, you could hide a knife, then bring it out and stab the other. A bronze knife or even a wooden knife would do. So holding our hand open was a way to show we hold no knife, we intend no injury. Today, the offer of a handshake is a sign of respect for another's inherent worth and dignity. On the other hand, can you imagine a godlike cult leader shaking hands with a subject? So, 1,000 years ago, under penalty of death, there were crusades to make everyone practice the crusaders' religion. The warriors were usually knights, and they had a new invention called armor to protect them in battle. But the armor hid the identity of the warrior, so an enemy could sneak inside the camp and cause a big problem. So when the warriors returned to camp, the guard would demand a password to keep the enemy out. Not a simple password like MAGA 2020 that was easily guessed and with no need to be stolen. Also, even complicated passwords can be overheard and then repeated. For example, in the Brothers Grimm fairy tale Rapunzel, the prince overhears the password from the sorceress and uses it in order to reach the maiden locked in the tower. Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair, that I may climb the golden stair. There are also magic passwords. For example, one such is the phrase, red leather, yellow leather. If you would, please say it out loud 3 times with us. Ready? Red leather, yellow leather, red leather, yellow leather, red leather, yellow leather. Well, I hear that didn't go so well. So now, let's challenge our armored knight with a simpler password. Who goes there? Who goes there?
Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
That word is good. You may pass. But still, passwords could be stolen, and the guard could not tell whether the horseman was a friend or foe. Almost 1,000 years ago, a hinge was added to the visor of the helmet. So when coming back to camp, the knight would lift his visor so the guard could see who the horseman was under all that armor. Today, we call it facial recognition. But raising the visor is with us even today. We know it as a military salute. With our efforts to stop the COVID pandemic, our greetings have been temporarily changed in order to stop germs. When we leave home, we wear masks and we do not touch each other. Instead of a handshake, we may offer a virtual handshake or touch elbows, but maybe not fist bumps or not even high fives without gloves. There is, however, a safe greeting that has been around for thousands of years. It's called the Namaste. That is hands together, palm to palm, just under the chin. It's a sign of respect to the other person. In some societies, it is combined with a bow, especially toward a very important person. It's not just for yoga anymore. Soon enough, we will be over the pandemic and our usual greetings will return. So enough for now. Now let's figure out who is Jane.
Jane said, to be a revolutionary, you have to be a human being. You have to care about people who have no power. But the wisdom of Hanoi Jane is not our Jane for today. Jane said, only if we understand will we care. Only if we care will we help. Only if we help shall all be saved. But the reasons for hope of Jane Goodall is not our Jane for today. Jane said, it is a truth universally acknowledged that a single man in possession of a good fortune must be in want of a wife. The author of Pride and Prejudice, Jane Austen, is our Jane for today. Jane Austen was born in 1775 to a family of English wool merchants. The brutality of that social order meant her father did not inherit the family fortune because he was not the oldest son. Her father joined the clergy rather than be a lawyer, military officer, or merchant. His children were very well educated, and the household was vibrant. In those days, girls marry, stay with the parents, or become a companion or governess. Jane and Cassandra were the only daughters of 8 children and lived with their parents. Her older sister was her closest friend and confidant. Jane's only romance was in her late teens and was squashed by the families as being unsuitable, possibly for lack of peerage. Jane was a feminist for that era, having been influenced by A Vindication of the Rights of Woman, written by Mary Wollstonecraft, a very influential Unitarian of the time, who died shortly after the birth of her daughter, Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley, author of Frankenstein. Her mother was part of an intellectual circle that included Joseph Priestley and other Unitarians pressing for religious freedoms and education, including that for girls and women. Seems some places are still 200 years behind. That book was widely read and read in America by John and Abigail Adams. Even Susan B. Anthony, a Quaker who attended the Unitarian Church in Rochester, New York, and Elizabeth Cady Stanton, influenced by the Unitarian minister Theodore Parker, dedicated to Mary their book, A History of Women's Suffrage, 1881. Oh goodness, so much influence by so many Unitarians, so many connections, so much fun and fascination. But now, back to Jane. Jane Austen grew up around 1800, a period of great change. The American Revolution, the French Revolution, the Napoleonic Wars, and the Regency period, where King George III was too ill to govern, so his son, the Prince Regent, ruled 1811 to 1820. During that time, conspicuous consumption was evident. Women were expected to be stylish. The empire dress was in vogue, which demanded an uplifting corset. Did I say uplifting? To some, the cost of vanity was internal organ damage from cinching a corset too tightly. This was also a period of aristocratic decline, where merchant and maritime endeavors created nouveau riche that competed with the aristocracy and the landed gentry. Hints of Downton Abbey. Jane's father, George, was educated at Oxford, and for nearly 40 years was the rector of the Anglican parish in Steventon, Hampshire, southwest of London. Her brother James was ordained and took over at Steventon. Ultimately, brother Henry was also ordained, but retained many societal contacts in London. Brothers Charles and Frank rose to admiral and received a portion of their treasure during the Napoleonic Wars from captured French ships. Jane Austen died 1817, welcoming death as a release from pain thought to result from adrenal insufficiency, now named after the description of the disease by Thomas Addison some decades later. Today, with modern drugs, people rarely die from Addison's. For example, John F. Kennedy was treated for but did not die from Addison's disease. As required reading in high school, I hated Pride and Prejudice. Too many characters seemingly indistinguishable as to who was talking. The novels seemed merely girls looking for husbands, so much chick lit. But Miss Jane Austen is continually rediscovered. She paints her characters with the stroke of a pen rather than the stroke of a brush. She gives a master class in the mechanics of the novel and created a template for today's rom-coms: adventure, romance, discord, and redemption. With many adaptations and movies, her novels have illuminated a broad world of humanity. Today, there has been another resurgence of appreciation. So let us join that appreciation by a tribute. You Are My Sunshine. Of course, this is a different interpretation of loss. It was written by Jimmy Davis, among others, so I guess it can't be too bad. But of course, our recording is well done by Jan, Rebecca, and Kathy.
You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. The other night, dear, while I was sleeping, I dreamt I held you in my arms. When I awoke, dear, I was mistaken.
Jane said, there is nothing like staying home for real comfort. Not long ago, we were casually dressed while watching these services on YouTube. Live broadcasts have been around for decades, but it is for us a new adventure. While we are here in person, we hope we are providing some of the features of our pre-COVID services, something to think about that we otherwise would not have thought about, an affirmation of our Unitarian Universalist values, and a greeting one to another. Well, now possibly during the chat of the premium broadcast. We hope it will be soon that we can all meet in person. Meanwhile, we must be patient. Some are patient and tolerate uncertainty. I think this community is remarkable in accepting uncertainty, which allows us to support each other in our individual search for truth and meaning. We don't think that any one outlook is superior to another, and life is made more interesting because of a diversity of viewpoints. Our curiosity gives us hope that answers will come, although we could be like those waiting for Godot. Others, by nature or nurture, are in want of patience, in want of answers right now, whether reasoned or absurd. Any answer averts continued frustration so that one's life can move on. This anxiety of uncertainty is what Freud called intolerance of uncertainty. My psych friends tell me that there are two kinds of people in this world. There are those who demand closure. Jane said, "It has been coming on so gradually that I hardly know when it began." I saw Jane Austen's novels brought to life on TV. That inspired me to overcome my high school disdain and read the novels. Academic introductions pointed out the scope of Jane's genius and helped me realize that so many of today's rom-coms are based on her novels, or at least on the recipe. There are comedies because all lived happily ever after. Were it not so, it would be called a tragic romance like Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. We need not go into an academic dissection of her novels to appreciate the friendships that develop for her characters, as well as for us. We begin as we are introduced one to another with interests similar to our own, who then introduce us to yet others with similar interests or outlook. In time, we become comfortable enough to make introductions for the benefit of others. Becoming a part of a community takes time, as does even accepting encouragement and courage derived from that community. Participation leads to new and lasting friends as we work together towards common goals or purposes. Just the continuing interaction with others with like interests leads us to mutual appreciation. Again, it's hard to pinpoint exactly when such friendships develop. But it is curious that when we join with an old friend, we can pick up where we left off when last we met, be it a week, a month, a decade ago. The city of Bath is due west of London, and the Roman Spa was a place to see and be seen. But as Jane suggested, it could be an unhappy experience for ordinary women looking for a match. Further, Jane said, to look almost pretty, is an acquisition of higher delight for a girl who has been looking plain the first 15 years of her life than a beauty from the cradle can ever receive. The truth of the statistical bell curve is that most of us will be ordinary in most of our attributes. Only in Lake Wobegon can everybody be above average. We are fortunate if we have found that attribute in which we are above average and in which we find enjoyment. Jane said, "It isn't what they say or think that defines what we do. It's what we do. Where comes the motivation for us to help, for the motivation to help us do what we do? From a fortune cookie, we learn hard work pays off in the future. Laziness pays off now. So uncertainty and delayed gratification may be a factor. But perfection leads to indecision and procrastination. It's attributed to Voltaire, who said, "Perfection is the enemy of the good." I just saw an internet headline on overcoming procrastination. Now, certainly, I need help to overcome my procrastination, so I think I'll go back and read the whole article tomorrow. About war, Jane said, "How horrible it is to have so many people killed, and what a blessing that one cares for none of them." How could Miss Jane Austen or anyone say such a horrible, callous thing, totally lacking in empathy? We may face that observation as we end our 20 years war. On the one hand, we owe our soldiers respect and even admiration for trying to do the right thing. But on the other hand, how could we continue a war with no end in sight? However, it's just about now that we realize Jane is a master of satire. Of course, our goal is peace, liberty, and justice for all. So we would do better to respect and admire our diplomats and politicians who strive to accomplish such goals rather than to deprecate them. After all, war is the last means of diplomacy. War is essentially an economic enterprise that guarantees at least one loser. The purpose of war is to kill people and break things, destroying the accumulation of generations of work and savings. There are leaders who encourage and promote well-being and raise us up to our better selves. In Maslow's hierarchy of needs, he claimed personal growth was a driving force to rising above our base needs. Self-actualization is an encouragement to live, to practice a search for truth and meaning. Failing to do this diminishes what might be accomplished as human beings. It is when we are comfortable in our own selves that we can be truly encouraging to others. It is in these upper levels when we realize we are most able to offer support to others. It is there we recognize the respect for the independent web of all existence of which we are a part. But is war necessary? Well, we enjoy our freedoms today because of World War II. Yet, it is an authoritarian technique to threaten personal and economic security that reduces us to our most basic needs, a state where we can be easily manipulated. For me, I don't really have an answer about war. I can only continue to listen, ponder, and wait. Jane said, "Know your own happiness. You want nothing but patience," or give it a more fascinating name, call it hope. For a year and a half, we've been confined in semi-isolation with continuing anxiety for when it will end. So it is easy to understand the toll on our psyche, a time perhaps without the touch of another human being. Hope for return to normal social get-togethers calls for a welcoming community where you're welcomed, accepted, comforted, offered a handshake, or even a hug, at least virtually today. We all have friends in different communities. I think part of that friendship is trying to understand another's interests. I have a friend in the scientific community who made use of Clifford algebra. Now, I had algebra in high school, so what's new? I should be able to understand this so I can talk with my friend about his interests. But it is not easy, at least for me. I don't remember ever studying so hard. I can only take pleasure with every little part that I master, or think I master. Jane said, pride and vanity are different things, though the words are often used synonymously. A person may be proud without being vain. Pride relates to our opinion of ourselves. Vanity to what we would have others think of us. So it is with pride that in each little mastery, one paragraph at a time, I'm motivated to continue my learning by my vanity that my scientific friends not think me stupid. You know, a serving of humble pie is good nutrition now and then. We're forced to realize that a master makes their craft look easy, that renewal and abstraction is a measure of human endeavor, and that only the ignorant can know it all. We may call it synergy, but friends that encourage us to work harder than we would have if we were alone. It is the encouragement and support of friends that is something for which we can all be grateful. And of course, it works both ways, especially when friends bother to understand our interests too. Perhaps the process is captured in getting to know you, getting to know all about you. Okay, this is not Broadway. We're not going to break into song. But thank you, Rodgers and Hammerstein. However, I suspect you may hum that tune from The King and I to yourselves sometime later today. The future is uncertain, and we are conflicted about the best course of action. As the demands of COVID-19 pandemic are released, let us at least hope or even celebrate the chance to come alive, to participate in more activities that make us human. Now, there's no value in being Pollyannish. The COVID-19 semi-isolation has been a genuine loss. Psychological studies have shown that a loss can have threefold or more psychic impact than a gain. Perhaps we just spend too much time trying to figure out what went wrong. So we need to work on reducing the impact of the COVID pandemics, Alpha and Delta. Let us enjoy every possible gain. Our happiness is not saluting every windmill, but knowing our own priorities, knowing what we can change, what we cannot change, and what is worth changing. Change requires courage, and support for that courage can come from a community such as this, where the inherent worth and dignity of every person means you are valued too. There should never be a need to ask, am I enough? Am I enough? Of course you are. As one project or phase is completed, may we have the courage to choose another that is satisfying and to which we can take pride, whether it be hobby, social activity, or profession. Jane said, I have been selfish all my life, in practice, but not in principle. With your permission, I'd like this to be a segue to stewardship. She could have been talking about church participation. The work of this community depends on you, your gift of participation, and your gift of treasure. So I ask you to give of your time and participation. Some of you are joining this program brought to you on YouTube, but there are and will be many other activities that could excite your interest and participation. Through the collective power of this community, big things can be accomplished. This building is only bricks and mortar, but it is a focal point for our community. Like us, it is a work in progress as we upgrade our facilities and replace grandfathered stove, oven, and hood to meet modern code. I ask you to give of your treasure to support the work of this community. A grant would be very nice. The crinkle of a Franklin would be twice as nice. But I'm not asking you to give till it hurts. I sincerely hope you are able to give generously and without hardship. Prudence and your budget dictates what you choose to contribute. Every bit helps maintain this place as a focal point of our community. May our principles guide us as we collect in silence, the offering that supports the work of this church. Unfortunately, COVID restricts the passing of the hat, so there are 4 ways to give to our church, as shown in the graphic. Note that you can donate one time, recurring by week, month, quarter, or year, or by stock transfer. I thank you for your generosity of time and treasure. Now Jan will lead us in a very important part of every service, at times called Cares and Concerns.
In silence and as a community of justice, equity, and compassion, may we offer our empathy and condolences to those in loss and in sorrow. May we offer our congratulations and happiness to those in success and in joy. May we offer our understanding and grace to ourselves in pride and in regret.
I should like to express my gratitude to this community, which has supported me in this opportunity to talk about things that I've been thinking about. I thank you. It is with sadness I must remind you of our COVID protocol. There will be no coffee hour, and please don't congregate within the building after the closing song. We'll be happy to see you outside on the lawn. Also, this is Delaware Peace Week, so please join us next week as Reverend Larry talks about practicing the art and soul of peace building. At this, the conclusion of our gathering, we extinguish this light. But extinguish not your light. Let your light shine as we journey through these times of cultural discord. May we take encouragement and courage from words of Stephen Grillet, who escaped the guillotine to become a Quaker missionary in Philadelphia. I shall pass this way but once. Any good that I can do or any kindness I can show to any human being, let me do it now. Let me not defer nor neglect it, for I shall not pass this way again. That light wants to shine.